Greetings and welcome everyone on another episode of Thoughtful Leaders, an initiative of Thoughts on Education by collegedunia.com, India's largest student review platform. Today, we have with us Professor S. Jayaraman, Director ISB&M Bangalore. Sir has over 26 years of diverse experience in industry ranging from automobile construction, iron and steel, and IT services. Sir has worked as Divisional Manager, Tata Metallinks Limited. A very warm welcome to you, sir. It's a
Thank
great
you.
pleasure to host you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, sir, you have been connected with education sector in different diverse industries throughout your professional career. What keeps you connected with the education sector now?
See, I'll tell you what. I've been with the corporate sector for almost 26 years. If you've seen my journey through the corporate sector, I
Yes.
started my career and I worked all along in projects, and finally I was with Tata Metallics as the divisional manager, as you rightly said. And I started my career with the education sector in 2003 with ISB&M, International School of Business and Media. So almost 17 years I've been with this institution. This institution was started in the year 2000 by one Dr. Pramod Kumar, who is the founder president. And I've been associated with them for some. The primary reason for my coming into education is I wanted to make a difference to people's lives.
So, sir, what is your philosophy of leadership in this university?
See, if you look at ISB&M, we are a very, very different institution from very many institutions that you may see. And we take pride in that because of the fact we believe that, look, our job is not to just educate people, grant them degrees, and get them a job. That's not what we do. I think what we are here for is to take the India, as I said, is a huge young population with a huge amount of aspirations. Right from day one, we were saying that, look, our leadership style has been how do we create young leaders within the organization. So even during their course of time, our leadership style is about empower the students. So it's a very highly student-driven institute. They do a lot of responsibility right from the day that they start inside this institution. They take care of most of the organizational care, what you call issues in the college, like the placement cell, the corporate relation cell, or the alumni cells, or the various what you call student bodies, the various clubs that come in, as you believe. They are all empowered. They are provided with all the necessary knowledge resources and also financial resources so that they can explore themselves. Give them a free hand and they will all become develop into good leaders. And that's the whole philosophy of leadership here. Empower people, give them an opportunity and let them grow. That's the whole idea.
So, sir, you informed me like you wanted to make a change in the education sector. How, being a director in the university, you have initiated some programs and ideas in the university. Can you just
Mhm.
explain those?
See, first and foremost, we are not an university. ISB&M is a autonomous institution
Okay.
recognized by the AICTE. Okay,
Okay.
and as far as our changes, as you talk about, is concerned, because you see, please understand, where management education is very different in the sense that, look, we realize that, look, we are basically catering to the needs of the industry, right? So
Yeah.
building competence, enabling people and making them employable. And that is the fundamental, what do you call, objective of this entire institution. How do you develop capable people, capable leaders and capable managers who, when they go into industry, they are ready to deliver value? The whole idea is how do you enrich them by adding value? All the time we were thinking in terms of what you call adding value to students. It is not just about granting a degree or getting them a job or getting them. So there are various processes involved. For us, the change that we brought in was that's the reason why, if you see right from day one, we've been able to give 100% placement to all our students.
So, sir, as you know, the education system in India and other foreign countries are structured very differently.
Mhm.
What, in your experience, an inbound student can gain from studying here at your institute?
See, I tell you what, as I said, you see, structure definitely is important for any organization to perform, right? For any kind of organization to perform. But this structure need not necessarily be uniformly followed across. We as an organization in ISB&M, as ISB&M, we have actually engineering colleges. We also have undergraduate education. We have an undergraduate college, ISBM College of Commerce, which caters to all the needs of the second. You will go graduate from class 12, come and join BBA program and BCA programs. And similarly, we also have an engineering college, ISBM School of Technology, where we do. Our approach towards education is all along been, because you see, while we talk about the structure, we talk about what do you call it, enabling. See, if you see most of the articles that came up in the last 10, 15 years, organizations who come to recruit people in what do you call various colleges, they only talk about how students are not employable. That's the major problem in the issue in the system, isn't it? And that is the reason why, if you see in the last 4 or 5 years, many colleges are actually being forced to shut down, basically
Yeah.
because they have not been able to create the kind of what you call students who can go and meet the needs of the industry. So in
Yes.
our organization, we are very clear in our understanding, and that look, well, people come from diverse backgrounds. If you see, people come from the engineering background to study an MBA. People come with English background. Various people with diverse, what do you call, backgrounds, and also diverse cultures come and study here. How do you integrate them? How do you bring them together? The kind of processes that we have within the organization. For us, the culture is very important. How do you
Yes.
create a performance culture? How do you create a performance mindset in the students? When you create a performance mindset and you make them capable to deliver, they are ready to go. So our structure has always been a very flexible kind of a structure. We give a lot of freedom to students to explore themselves. That's the whole idea. For example, if you look at even a fun event like an annual event like Crescendo,
Mhm.
where the budgets can go up to 50, 60 lakhs, completely managed by the students, right?
Yes.
So here is a set of body of them. We know how to get the sponsorship. They go and approach various funding bodies across the organization, go and talk to the CEOs or marketing heads of these organizations, get in sponsorship. So they feel empowered. They feel, oh, I do not have any fear whatsoever. I have shed all my inhibitions. The very fundamental practice, most people do not grow because they have limitations in their mindset. So growing, making them grow out of their limitation mindset is the fundamental thing that we do at ISBNM. That is why we have been successful in whatever we have been doing for the last many years.
Yes, sir, definitely. So,
Yeah.
sir, are there any views on the new education policy that is in talk right now for the majority of the institutes?
To be very frank with you, I have only had a glance at the policy. I do not know how much it will impact the higher education sector. I have not seen much of it, except
Okay.
seeing the overall scene. But I think that look, the government is also very keen. The very understanding is to develop. See, one of the objectives of if you see the government is saying, how do we improve my gross enrollment ratio in the higher education? I think they had set a target of about 30% in 2020, which I think we have not been able to achieve. So I think that took more and more in my, if you had to ask me my personal opinion, the less the monitoring, the less the governance, the better will be the quality of the students and the better will be the education
Yes.
system. This is what I've always seen. And this is something that is proven. If you see what happened in 1991, when the entire the economic reforms came about, every industry started flourishing, isn't
Yeah.
it? If you take the automobile sector in 1991, there are only three cars. Only three people were
Yeah.
making cars for 30 years. And look at the
Yes.
kind of cars that are available today. And every year you come into the new model. The more and more you let go, I have a strong feeling that look, growth will happen automatically. I think that's the same might apply to education sector. This is my completely personal opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
the people, when there is competition, intense competition rather than regulation sometimes may not really work for us. And so that is what I feel. The more and more healthy competition, standards will go up, and then what you call employability will also go up. And India is a young country. Please understand that there's a
Yeah.
huge amount of what you call young people who want to aspire to do well. And I think one of the things that I really liked about the education policy was every year, if you see hordes of Indian students, particularly after their graduation, try to go abroad to make a
Yeah.
career or to go for
Yes.
higher education. Now they are opening up the doors for a lot of some of these best institutes in the world, like a Harvard and a Stanford, to come and set up shop in India.
Yeah.
Maybe we will be able to also improve the education sector, and many students may be able to get access to some good quality education in this country. That's the only good thing that I saw. But I have not really read the education policy very deeply. I can't really comment on that.
Okay. So, sir, taking your point about the higher education, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see, both for higher education in general and for your institute specifically?
See, there are a couple of issues here. See,
Yeah.
what happens is when you talk about higher education, we're talking about professional education, okay? Because if you see the BA, BSc, and all, they're general education, okay? General. It does not give you any professional skill sets to go and take up a career, pursue a career, isn't it?
Yes.
So when you're talking about career-related higher education, maybe becoming a CA, becoming an engineer, or doing a costing, or doing an MBA program, my own understanding is the challenges are when people come with diverse background, our own primary and secondary education do not allow them, do not create the conditions for them to think and apply their minds to develop. Our education system is one of the biggest pitfalls of our education. Whereas if you go to an organization to work and you want to make decision making positions, you want leadership positions, you want to start off with a career worth about 15, 20 lakhs as an average package. Now, when that demand from the organizations are, I want a person who is creative, I want a person who can analyze, I want a person who can, what do you call, do innovative thinking. So there is a huge amount of gap. For us, the challenge for us is to what you call, how do you make this happen from a set of people who are not really attuned to good thinking processes in during the college that they spend. And here we are. So that's the reason why our own education curriculum. And I mean, if you see some of the top educational institutes, including the IIMs and things like that, they follow the case study method where there are a lot of simulation given to them, and then people learn to what you call take decisions and things like that. As far as our organization is concerned, we follow a similar kind of a method, uh, as good and maybe better. We do quite a lot of what you call psychographic profiling of students. When you do psychographic profiling of students, we try and tell them what are the leadership qualities that they lack, what are the interpersonal needs and skills which is where they need to really work on, what are the kind of how do they manage their own emotions, right? You see, some of the when you want to become a good manager, these four important things: decision making skills, learning to manage your own emotions, learning to deal with setbacks. These are the things that make you stand out in a crowd, isn't it?
Definitely.
So in
Definitely.
our own institution, we place a lot of importance of psychographic profiling, identifying, and we also have a mentoring process within the organization where we assign students to a particular faculty to mentor them. They are constantly talked to, and then there is a mentoring process which is very highly structured. It is very highly structured. So with the result, what happens is every student at the same time has an opportunity to transform himself and grow into a leader, and that's what I think is the challenge for all of us. Is the challenge.
Definitely, I can agree on that. So, sir,
Yeah.
moving forward, can you explain how your institute is handling the current COVID situation for the students?
Oh, I think one of the things I think biggest success for us this year, in spite of the fact, well, COVID, whatever it is, we have been able to very quickly adapt. I
Yes,
think that's one of the biggest challenges that we faced. And we anticipated of course, the COVID thing started early in March. If you remember, the shutdown,
yes, 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 yes.
lockdown started in March 24th. At that time, we almost had about 80% of our admissions through at that point of time. And then there were a lot of doubts among students. Students didn't want to come and things like that. But then he said, how do we get those students started? So our normal, what do you call, sessions start in the month of June. We made sure we start the sessions in June. We had an orientation program for 7 days for students. Okay, we had invited some big, like the chairman of what you call Morgan Stanley was he inaugurated our orientation program. Everything was done online. Today, we are almost on the verge of completing our first trimester, and we have more than 300 students in the first year, and another 300 students, 400 students in the second year. All classes are going online. All our faculty has been trained how to teach online classes. We immediately started put together a process where we know we can get our faculty to teach online, give assignments online, group discussions online. I think we have more or less been able to adapt, master the technology very well, and that's why we are not really facing much of a problem as far as our admissions, as far as our COVID is concerned. Well, the fact remains that look, we would like to have students on the campus, but
Yeah.
that can happen only when the government formally gives the permission to give the particular date with all the precautions and all that. But as far as we are concerned, we have not been too badly affected by the COVID-19 situation because we have been able to handle it very well.
So, sir, that's a great news. Any insights into how your institute could be more welcoming to the students of different races or economic backgrounds, considering the current COVID time?
See, I tell you what, ISBM has always had a very liberal outlook, very liberal outlook. You know, including Dr. Pramod Kumar, he's like a visionary. and he is always promoted a lot of a very freedom oriented culture. You see, unless there is freedom, people will not grow, both mentally and also particularly mentally in terms of the viewpoint. And ever since we started until today, we have people from almost 87 to 90 different towns and cities from across the country. Okay. Now you will find a Tamilian, you will find a Assamese boy, and find a Bombay guy, you find a Delhi guy. So people from diverse backgrounds, religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds come in. And once we have a culture, we do not give any special preferences for this culture or that culture. For us, they are all students. They are all what you call come here. They are seeking a career for themselves, and our ability to what you call look at these things very dispassionately and diverse background, respecting each and every, learning to respect each other, and that is the way we have grown, and that's the reason we have been able to survive. And for diversity also brings in multiple perspectives. Students learn from each other. A student from Kashmir comes and works with a Persian a student from Kashmir or from Assam, completely diametrically opposite in terms of culture and everything for that matter.
Yeah.
But they learn to respect each other. They learn to become good friends. They learn to start working together when they give them assignments together. And then when we get to understand each other better, diversity actually makes you a better leader. So
Yeah.
you start appreciating others and start putting yourself in the shoes of others, and that's when you start respecting others. Diversity actually is helping us in a big way. We have to leverage diversity in a big way.
So, sir, you were talking about the vision.
Mm.
What was your vision when you came to the institute? Has it evolved over time?
As far as I am concerned, I am aligned to the vision. The vision is, of course, Dr. Pramod Kumar, who is the ultimate as far as the organization vision is concerned.
Concerned?
Personally, if you ask me my vision, I've
Yeah.
aligned my vision with the organization in a very nice way, because I love working with young people. Because
Yeah.
in one of the things that we check in ISBMS, I see, for example, nobody talks age. Age is for us is only a number. I work with 22-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and I feel as young as ever, right? So we have been able to transcend this what you call age as a barrier. Age is not a barrier for us here. For me, for my vision, as far as education is concerned, making a difference to other people's lives, helping to people to build their careers, helping people to build their competence, helping people to what you call build their skill sets and get over some of their what you call limitations is what my vision for education was, and that's why I'm here. I've been with them now for the last 17 years.
So, sir, can you just talk more about the institute's top priority over the next 10 years, considering all the shift from physical education to the digital market?
See, let me tell you one thing. Uh, See, if you look at the digital technology invasion in the workplace today,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, one has to adapt. One has
Yeah.
to adapt. There's no
Definitely.
chance. Otherwise, you won't survive. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a very good article about how people who are born, like people, young people like you, born in the late 1990s, early 2000, they're all called digital natives. Even
Yes.
before, after you're born, by the time you're one, you know how to click a photograph using an iPad. You don't have to teach them, isn't it? You're
Yes.
digital natives. Whereas
Yeah.
people like me, born in the 1950s, we have a challenge. We have to challenge to what you call to learn some of these things from the youngsters. So many a time, one of the things that we really learn is actually I learn a lot from my students as far as the digital age is concerned. As far as our long-term perspective is concerned, like going forward, what I see is that see, it's very difficult. The kind of rapid change that is happening in this world is very difficult to what you call say what could happen in 10 years' time. But
Yeah.
what I can foresee in management education per se is going forward. If you see what's happening in the US for that matter, enrollments in the regular 2-year programs are coming down. Okay,
Yes.
and so obviously, what people are saying is, and then there will be a lot of economic hardship is forcing people to take up jobs at a much early age. So going forward, I honestly feel that management education is here to stay. MBA is a very popular program. Companies prefer to enroll a higher-end MBA graduate rather than an ordinary graduate. That is for true. So keeping that in mind, what could happen in the future could be there will be people who may be taking up a job and also simultaneously doing a 1-year MBA program, maybe an
Yeah.
evening part time. There will be a lot of more demand for existing people taking up jobs and then moving towards an online education and educating themselves more. And that I see is could be the trend in future. People want to take up jobs, and while they are on the job, also want to train themselves in what you call managerial skills and leadership skills, and be able to apply what they learn on the inside their workplace itself. And that's how I see going forward the education will be. There will be more demand for 1 year education programs, short-term certification programs, basically on the demand side. But at the same time, there will also be a lot of reduction. For example, if you see a lot of MBA schools now give programs in MBA in HR, MBA in marketing, MBA in this, MBA in that, and that may not happen now. What will happen from an era of specialization, we'll move strolling towards where you see every MBA graduate is expected to know all domain knowledge. I may be taking a career in marketing, but I'm expected to know about HR. I'm expected to know about finance. I'm expected to know about operations, isn't it? So I think that look, gone are those days of specialization as such, and I think more and more accent will be on learning business fundamentals, and that's I see is the future, and more people enrolling.
So, sir, summing up our conversation, any message like you would like to give to our current youth and aspiring students?
Uh, as far as my own message to all FH students is, you see, today is with the rapid change in technology and rapid change in income, the challenge that most people would face, right? Because since there is all the skill that you learn today will get outdated very fast, will become
Yes,
obsolete
sir.
very fast. So keep learning. So I think keep learning, right? Keep learning, keep faced with the technology and make yourself contemporary in knowledge. Otherwise, you'll be left behind, completely left behind. So learning is a continuous process, and this is something that we have. That's what I'll tell the youth. And newer programs will come in, newer technologies will come in. You'll be able to shed the old and embrace the new constantly. And this is a constant process, continuously, till the time that you are wherever you are and whatever you do. The day you are obsolete, you will not have a space in the industrial space at all, in the leadership space at all, isn't it? So don't become obsolete. Keep learning. That's the only message that I have for young people.
Thank you so much for providing College Union an opportunity to interact with you, sir. It was a lovely session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, College Dunia, and it was a great pleasure to be talking to you. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.